Workday calculations. Before moving on to that, anyone have any question on previous topics? Okay, let me give some example. Whenever you create an earning or not even a deduction, we must define a calculation, which is mandatory. Example, you can scroll to the earning. Here we have a different calculation. So based on the calculation you have defined and the logic within the calculation, Workday will process the payroll. The calculation we can utilize here, or in Workday Payroll, we can also define a calculation as an eligibility. To know more about Workday delivered calculation, we do have a task. Just a second. We do have a task, not this. Run this report, all calculation. Here you have category, which calculation you would like to view, payroll, absence, etc. I want to know what are all payroll calculation are configured or available from Workday or custom. Custom is the one we are going to create. Workday. So access the task call calculation.
What does the customer mean? What does the customer there mean?
Custom specific calculations which we create.
Oh, but it says customer. It says customer.
They will say customer, but it is custom calculations. Because
that's strange. Okay.
For example, let's say you are my customer and I'm implementing Workday Payroll for you. And you gave some requirement, and then I noticed some custom calculations are required. I will create those calculations that will fall under customer calculations. Workday calculation means Workday owned calculations, Workday delivered calculations. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Just select OK. Now you can see the list of Workday calculations derived from Workday. I hope we have access. Yeah. 1,800. Oh, it's not 1,000. 18,925.
Wow. If there's something there,
Yeah.
if you need something that's not there, I would be surprised.
That's what Workday has given a number of calculations, and also they will give a comment here to understand what is this calculation, a simple comment. So always when you got a requirement, okay, so always try to go with Workday delivered calculations because the calculations are accurate. But some requirements you may have to go with custom calculations. Okay, that we will learn in today's session. But this is a report where you can access all Workday calcs. Yeah. Okay. Then, so okay, remember this report. Custom calculations means the calculations customer create. I mean, for customer specific requirement we created. Example, select OK. People might be practicing in this channel. You can see view. Okay, is bringing all. So someone has categorized. These are all absence related, friends. Someone has categorized absence payroll. That's why it's brought to us. It's actually absence related. Let me see, is there any specific payroll someone created or not? It will bring absence also, I think. Now see, all our absence calculations, mostly people are tagged to payroll also. Okay. So some requirements we can, based on the requirements, we can get this custom calculation. You cannot find here because everything is absence accrual. These are all payroll calculations someone has copied or created. France, etc. 755. Okay. Now, in this session, we'll try to understand what are these calculations. Example, if you select here, you can see bill date, conditional, constant value, date extract, date difference, etc. Right? Arithmetic, aggregate. These are all custom calculations. We are going to learn these calculations in today's session, and then I will present a custom requirement. Okay. I'm quickly repeating again. When you create an earning or deduction under the eligibility section or in the calculation, we need to define calculation, either delivered one or custom one. So let's spend some time to understand what are all custom calculations we have. Okay. Arithmetic calculation. Second one, conditional calculation. Third one, lookup calculation. Fourth one, constant value calculation. Fifth one, date difference calculation. Sixth one, date extract calculation. Seventh one, instance value. And then the most important one, instance set comparison calculation. And then arithmetic. I'm sorry, it's repeated. Aggregate. Arithmetic, conditional, lookup, constant, date difference, date extract. Oh my god, the most important one, logic calc. Okay. So these are 10 calculations we're going to learn, but in payroll, most often we will use only few calculations. I'm going to highlight those. Okay. So there are the calculations which are highlighted with asterisk. We'll often use more in Workday Payroll. Now let's see what is these calculations, which scenarios we will use these calculations, etc. Okay, first one, arithmetic calculation. What is arithmetic calculation? If you would like to calculate something like, if you would like to calculate or addition, you mean like something like you want to do minus, division, multiplication, addition. For this, arithmetic calculation is required. What is this minus, division, multiply, or addition? See this example. So we have a requirement on hourly wage. Okay, hourly wage. So requirement is simple. Number of hours worked by the employee. Based on that, okay, number of hours multiplied by rate. What is meant by that? Rate is nothing but per hour how much the employee should get. Assume an employee should get $50 per hour rate. Okay. Multiply by how many hours the employee is working? 40 hours in a week. $2,000 per week. If you have these requirements, you can use arithmetic calculations, multiplications, divisions, subtractions, additions, etc. Okay, commonly we will use for hourly wage or overtime. We will use this arithmetic calculation. Any questions here on arithmetic? So now 50 is nothing but rate. Okay, to make it simple, rate is $50 per hour. Total number of hours worked by an employee is 40. Now I have these two values. This value is from compensation. This value is from time tracking. Now I want to calculate in the payroll. So I need a formula here. What is my formula? My formula will be rate multiplied by number of hours. So rate is nothing but $50 multiplied by the number of hours worked by an employee, 40, total $2,000. So for this kind, if you have such requirements, we can use this option. Okay. Now let's move on to another one. Conditional calculation, most important. In absence also, often we will use this one. Let's discuss few examples. Assume a customer has a requirement. They want to process a shift payment. They want to process a shift payment. Something like, if any employee in shift 1, shift pay is 0. If any employee in shift short form shift 2, let's say $5 you want to pay. If any employee shift 3, you want to process $10. Some kind of allowance you want to give per day.
But the SHFT like -1 is the shift number?
No. It's okay. Let me do equal to. Sorry for the confusions. If any employee is in shift 1, okay, he will get shift 1. He will get 0, no allowance. If any employee shift 2, $5 we will pay. Any employee is part of shift 3, $10 we will pay. To make it simple, conditional calculations are required for if statement. Okay, conditional calculation is required for if statement. The same example, let me change another way. Company wants to pay certain office setup allowance. Because this COVID pandemic, everyone we are all working from home. Now company wants to give certain allowance based on the work location. If employee working in Chicago, they want to give a one-time allowance. They want to pay a one-time allowance, $500. If an employee working in New York, they would like to pay $750. If an employee working in Boston, they want to pay $600. So based on the work location of the employee, they would like to provide certain amounts. Here, whenever you get if statement, if employee working in Chicago, if employee working in New York, if employee working in Boston, so such requirements you need conditional calculation. Okay. Any questions here?
No.
Okay. Then move on to the lookup calculation. These are simple and straightforward. So lookup calculation, when it is required, again, taking the same example, something different. If employee complete 3 years of service, company wants to pay $1,000 as a seniority allowance. If employee complete 5 years of service, company wants to pay 2,000 US dollars. If employee complete 7 years of service, company would like to give a one-time payment of 3,000 US dollars. For this requirement, we need lookup calculation. A point to remember, the same requirement I can achieve with conditional calculation also. Same requirement I can achieve with conditional calculation as well. Calculations are not like only for this requirement. Calculations can be reutilized for different requirements. Okay. One more point, when you're working on calculation, mostly we need patience. The reason why I'm saying that word is conditional calculation until you will test the earning and deduction. If it is working, we cannot conclude it's working as expected. You will do a vigorous test first, because you're going to show the output on the pay slip, right? So hit and trial kind of things, especially these calculations. Any questions, ma'am, on lookup?
So it's going to look up the years of service, and then if there, it's going to do a calculation, a conditional calculation.
Yeah, both works. Lookup works, conditional works.
Okay.
Okay. Let me do one thing. I'll show this requirement for your understanding how it looks. I will achieve this requirement with lookup. I will achieve this requirement with conditional. You guys please tell me which one is easy. So I'll go with lookup first. Create lookup table. Select. Okay. Now see here. Okay. I'll use some name. I'm going to categorize. As I said, calculations are required for payroll, calculations required for absence, calculations required for compensation. But our requirement is payroll. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. So add 3 rows. Search value, if employee completed 3 years. Return value, 1,000 US dollars. If employee complete 5 years, 2,000 US dollars. If employee complete 7 years, 3,000 US dollars. Okay, so we have created the lookup table, and then copy this. Lookup calculation. Assign the value, the one we created. Here, search for worker years of service. I have my logic here. How many years? How much amount? And based on what I'm paying, what we are processing this amount is my criteria. Worker years of service. Okay. Same requirement, I'm going to achieve in another way with conditional calculation. Now you please tell me which one is feasible and easy. Don't worry, this is just for heads up how the logic looks. Same requirement. I'm proceeding with create conditional calculation. Name it payroll. Order A. Condition create instance at value, instance at compare years of service we need, right? Instance at comparison calculation. Just a second, I had to find the right calc. Okay, what is the result? $1,000. Like that, we have to create for B, C, and result. So same requirement I achieve with two different calculations. Which one is easy? We look up or conditional? I mean, look up or conditional?
Lookup.
Lookup is easy, correct? Lookup is straightforward, just two. But here, conditional, inside conditional again, instance value on top of that result and constant value process. So we have to think which calculation is quick and fast. It will take little time to understand these requirements. So as I mentioned, calculations are never be constant. You can achieve the requirement with different types of calculations. Okay, let's continue our discussion on different calculations. Constant value calculation. Just now, I selected 1,000. For example, whenever I'm selecting some amount, or if I'm looking for some date, or if I'm looking for some numeric, and if it is not available, I can create a constant value. Okay, I can create a constant value. So date difference means it's a kind of, let's say you want to process a benefit deduction for the dependent age greater than or equal to 55. So from where you have to fetch the value, how to validate that the employee years is 55. You have to go on first hit the employee dependent's date of birth. And as of today, what is the employee dependent years? If the years are greater than or equal to 55, then the deduction needs to be happened. So such requirements, we can use date differences. Okay, date, the name itself specifying date differences. Something like can be used to return a dependent's age based on the current calendar end date minus dependent's date of birth. It's there in the book as well. Example. Inbuilt logic. So here I want to extract the employee, I want to extract the dependent's age. When I'm extracting and validating with 55 numeric, 55 is my constant value. So I have to write a date difference calculation. It's going to fetch as of today, what is the age of this employee? Okay, as of this year, what is the age of this employee? From where it is going to bring? From dependent's personal information. Okay, just a second. Now see here, we have age, right? I want to know whose dependent's age is greater than 55. So in order to get this information, we will maintain a field in the dependents, that is dependent age. Okay, so our calculation as of this year, from the date of birth, it will calculate, and if the age is 55 and above, then the deduction will be processed. If you have such requirements, then the date difference calculation is required. Anyone have any questions? Let me know if this is confusing. So we have this requirement. Don't worry, we're going to create in our custom calculation. Then date extract calculation is simple. We have to extract a date, employee hire date. If employee hire date is greater than, as of today, if the employee hire date is greater than equal to 3 years, then you want to give some amount as a allowance, something like that. Here you can have to extract the date. It can be employee service date, employee hire date, employee position in time, employee recent compensation change date, any date. If you'd like to extract, then you can use this calculation. Date extracts. Instance value calculations normally we will use for tax related calculations. Okay, tax adjustment calculations we will use, but most often we won't use for payroll. Instance set comparison calculation is a very important calculation in payroll. If you want to create eligibility for earning or deduction, if you want to create a calculation for earning or deduction, okay, for earning or deduction, this instance set comparison calculation is mandatory. So why? Because if you are based on the location, based on the country, based on the state, or based on the supervisory organization, based on the cost center, you want to process some amount, this calculation plays a key role. And then aggregate calculation, it can be used to return the sum of all time of paid of a given period to reduce salary wages. To make it simple, so we may have to consolidate sum or take the average and process or calculate certain values or minimum or maximum. Then we need this aggregate. We never use in payroll. Most will use in for absence management. Okay. And the most important, logic calculation. Logic calculation all are often we will use in absence and payroll. If we have and condition or conditions, we may use logic calculation. What is and or conditions? Example, we have a requirement where employee complete 3 years of service with the organization and employee is full-time, then employee should get paid $1,000 as a one-time payment. Here I need two criteria. Employee years of service I need, employee time type also I need. In that condition, I need and condition. So for this, any questions so far on these examples? I explained scenarios which on or often will use for payroll, but please feel free to ask questions if you have any.
I have a doubt. All these things we have taken as of the current process. Like if the process is happening currently, then these values will happen. If there is a date condition, suppose from with effective from 6th of May, there is a new rate for the hours who has been worked 40 hours or 10 hours. In
Right.
that case, can we delimit that? That is one example.
Of course. Your calculation is just a shell, man. How it works is payroll input, you remember, right? Payroll input.
Yes.
I will create just a calculation, something like this. Okay. And
Okay.
I will get the rate from compensation and the number of hours if you have in-house time tracking from the time tracking application. So the number of hours working by the employee increasing, reducing, it completely depends on our time tracking system, not in the payroll. Agree?
Yes, agree.
At the same time, the rate $50, 70, one employee may have $50, another employee may have $70. These details are coming from compensation. Agree?
Yeah.
So we'll get the data from compensation, we'll get the data from time tracking, we'll process here. So as you mentioned, adjustments, of course, always payroll system is flexible for adjustments if you want to perform. Or if you can give me one example, I will try to give an answer clearly. So delimitations you mentioned. Okay. Any other questions, ma'am?
What I understood is the rate delimitation will happen in your compensation, not in
Right.
our.
Increasing or reducing should happen in the compensation. But if you ask me, hey Kiran, for 1 week $2,000 we are giving, but the employee has worked 3 days. I want to prorate it. That is also happen in compensation and payroll both. Payroll also we can do proration rules. That will happen in the payroll.
Okay.
Don't worry, we just start calculation, right? I can understand first lesson it will be tricky. What I do now is